Thank you, Abraham. I love you so much.
Yeah. That's natural.
Yes. I'm extremely pleased that I'm here. And we are all extremely pleased that you are here.
Yeah.
I knew you're going to call me today. And I got some good stuff to share with everybody. Should I share first and ask my question later, or?
What do you think is most likely to bring us all to a place we have not been before?
Okay, good.
In this leading edge conversation where this combination of beings has never been before. Let's find the new nugget.
Thank you. I want to share a story about Thomas Edison. 100 years ago, in December of 1914, he was 68 years old, and his lab burned to the ground. That lab, that was everything he had. It was like, at the time, it was worth $7 billion. He didn't have any insurance. Overnight, he lost everything.
Except his vibrational prowess.
Absolutely.
Except his point of attraction.
Exactly. He was very well known to be extremely optimistic.
Really?
In unconditional joy. So at the night of the fire department called his son because they knew that there is no hope that they're going to do anything there. So they called him and told him to inform his dad the next morning that he lost everything. So he rushed to the site of the lab, and he was very upset. And then he saw his father, Thomas Edison, sitting on a chair, enjoying the flames. And he couldn't approach him. Then Thomas Edison saw him and asked him to come. He said, "Wow, these are beautiful flames. Nobody has seen a fire like this." And his son said, "Dad, are you okay? My whole body is shaking." He said, "I'm okay. There's nothing we can do. The fire department is doing its best. We think about it tomorrow. But now look at these flames. They are beautiful. Wow, that's blue. That must be oxygen. Wow, that's purple. That must be sulfur. You know what? Go get your mom and her friends too. They should have missed this." The next day, New York Times and other newspapers came, and he said, "All my mistakes burned in fire. And there is a great value in loss." And he lived another 20 years, and his company is still around, Con Edison. That's his company.
Well, what he knew that his son didn't know at that time is that his beingness, what he had amassed was knowledge. What he had amassed, and we would use different words than he would use knowledge, what he had amassed was a vibrational point of attraction. He understood in some way that there was a vibrational reality that would come quickly back into fruition. The physical manifestation is a temporary thing. The vibrational state of being is an eternal thing.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
So he was a master. He knew what's happening in the world. Another thing
we have some questions. Do
Yeah.
you think that he was always and only optimistic? In other words, you were all born that way. And some of you at early ages get talked out of it by pessimism around you. Some of you get talked out of it, don't like how it felt to be talked out of it, remember how it felt when you were optimistic, and make your way back to it naturally. Some of you, especially people of scientific bent, because you see, everything in science, actually everything in everything, follows these powerful laws of physics. And so to be good at understanding the laws of physics, you have to find some stability in the way the universe works. And so through his trials and errors, as some would call it, through his experimentation, he learned what worked. And in the same way that he learned what worked in terms of chemistry or mathematics or science. He also learned what worked in terms of emotions. He came to know, as surely as putting these components with these components will equal this, he learned that this emotion put together with this emotion will equal this. He learned through life what optimism would bring him. He learned to thrive on clarity. Clarity and alignment are the same thing. Split energy and clarity are opposite things, you see. And so in the same way that he was a scientist who learned through doing, that's what we're asking all of you to do. We're asking you to put yourselves in touch with your emotions so that you can discover your clarity in the way that he did. Yes.
Yes, I was going to say that observe what worked and what did not work.
Yeah.
And anything other than joy is not going to work.
And why? If you can get this emotional component in place and begin to notice when things are working how you felt or feel, and when things aren't working how you felt or feel, and then just start doing the work. We'll talk about it more as we're moving through this day, how to soften the resistance and how to
Actually, I have a Bachelor of Science, and I'm also a salesman. I train salespeople for a global company. And like, I'm probably one of the best salespeople on the planet. But I never seen anybody like you. You are the salesman of all the salespeople. You're selling contrast for the last 30 years. And that's not an easy thing to sell.
You know what makes us good at what we sell?
Ease. Love.
No split energy.
No split energy. Yes.
Clarity.
No doubt. I have a question regarding the vortex. For many years, I've been following you for many years, and you always say this invisible vortex and show us
vibrational reality.
Yeah,
We began
reality.
calling it a vortex. We even wrote a book about it, calling it the
Yes.
vortex. And for a while we said, get in the vortex, get in the vortex, get in the vortex. You got really tired of that. And how do we get in the vortex?
To me, it's not, it's actually very visible. And the only thing that I see is vortex everywhere. From the shape of the atom to the shape of the clouds, to the black hole, shape of the planet, shape of the solar system, shape of the galaxies, shape of the universe. Everything is vortex, is in the shape of vortex. And I want to ask you, do you guys have any other shape to work with?
Now, everything's always in motion. Everything's always in motion.
And I know there are vortexes on the planet Earth, like Sedona. I know Jerry and Esther bought a house and visited Sedona 30 years ago because they knew it was the place of a vortex. And they say there are 7 places on the planet, which is the vortex of the planet Earth.
When Jerry and Esther asked us about that, we said to them, to Esther specifically, you are the vortex. In other words, if you're running around looking for a vortex, it's limiting. But when you understand that you have the potential in any moment of time of opening yourself to the receptive mode, in other words, that's all we mean by that. The reason that we talk about vortex is because we wanted you to begin to contemplate the fact that there was an amassing and a becoming energetically that you could not see with your physical senses. And if we could convince you that this reality did exist so that you started feeling for it and reaching for it, that eventually, with not much effort, you could soften the resistance within yourself to begin realizing. After our conversation about the vortex, we began talking with great enthusiasm about your point of attraction, because we wanted you to recognize that what you had put into the vortex would come out where you could see it. We began playing with you by saying that you're saying to us, Abraham, I understand that there's a fortune in the vortex, but how do I get it out of the vortex and into the bank? how do I get that vibration into money where I can spend it? And so that's really what we're wanting to emphasize these days. How do you get into the receptive mode of what you've already created?
Yes. And what is the significance of places like Machu Picchu in Peru, Sedona, and other places that like there are vortex? I'm planning to go to Machu Picchu in Peru.
All right, we'll tell you.
Okay.
It is not a geological phenomenon. It is that there were civilizations there who understood vibration and developed momentum of energy flowing. And when you get there, because of those who lived before, who were tuned in, tapped in, turned on while they were there, if you are in the receptive mode, you have the benefit of what they knew.
So it helps.
Don't you like knowing that? Don't you like knowing that? But now let's take this further. You have the benefit of what Source knows all the time, no matter where you are. Esther and Jerry used to love going on hike and excursions and different things around the world, and they often went off to themselves because they wanted us to be the tour guide, because so often the tour guide had it wrong. What the tour guide was saying about what happened here and what happened here, the rewriting of history is happening constantly, you see. If you're wanting the vibrational accuracy, if you're wanting the story from Source as Source sees it, you see, that's what you're wanting. You're wanting the Source version. You're wanting to see the world through the eyes of Source. You're wanting to know the world through the eyes of Source. And so, yes, Esther met a woman. She sold beautiful jewelry. They were beautiful stones that had been cut, and they were large, and they'd been gilded. And this woman said to Esther, it's like having a vortex with you all the time, although she didn't call it a vortex. It's like having magic with you all of the time. And so Esther said to Abraham, is it true? And we said, no. But we said, suppose that it is. Esther said, which one should I choose? And we said, the biggest one. But now you have to wear it everywhere you go. When, like our friend telling us about Thomas Edison, you have amassed your becoming, and it is far more than you realize, and it is available to you all of the time, being transmitted to you non-stop. So anything you do that can make yourself
I'm also planning to participate in ayahuasca ceremony, which is shamans, the magical tribesmen in Amazon. They have these plant extracts called ayahuasca, and they have a ceremony, and it definitely helps people to awaken and purge their bodies. A lot of people experience healings and a spiritual awakening.
For the same reason, and the reason that we went over time and allowed both of these questions to come, because they were important to come together, is that for the same reason. In other words, when we said to you already today that one who's connected to this alignment is more powerful than millions who are not, and you told us what a good salesman we are, and we said it's because of clarity. So anytime someone finds that sort of clarity, and from their place of clarity they are inspired to a behavior,